The Phoenix Suns have traded for Nick Richards, and we are co-streaming this live on both channels. It's Suns Geek and Suns Jam. John Voida and hopefully I'm still live. Because I feel like we're lagging.
You're lagging. Can you hear me?
Out like we did last time.
I feel like you're lagging, Suns Geek.
So I'm going to keep.
I feel like you're. Are you there?
Going here, and if for some reason
Geek's Wi-Fi is excited too. Coda Kid says in the chat. I'm sure I'll get a text message from Brandon, but welcome everybody to a co-stream that's going on live, both on the Suns Geeks channel and on the Suns Jam Session podcast channel. Totally excited. Seems like every time a big move happens in the realm of the Phoenix Suns, we get together, Suns Geek, the Suns Jam Session guys. It's a big one. We got a big one to talk about today with the moving of Josh Okogie for Nick Richards. It's officially happened, something that's obviously been discussed in kind of different circles, right? Kind of a couple different realms. Has this been discussed, where you have Nick Richards, who's been talked about to necessitate and to assist in a need that the Suns definitely have, right? Rebounding. The Suns are so bad at rebounding. And we saw it last night, didn't we? Giving up 20 offensive boards, giving up 27 second chance points. Ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous how the Suns looked on the boards. And there's a lot of different, issues that this team has relative to their contracts, right? You have Yusuf Nurkic, who's the one who everyone's been kind of talking about. The guy who they say could be moved in this situation. But nobody wants Nurk Daddy, at least not right now. And so the Suns made the move on the day where Josh Okogie becomes eligible to be traded. They move Josh Okogie, Mr. Call Me Nonstop himself, is headed to the Charlotte Hornets in exchange for Nick Richards. Now, there's some other schematics, if you will, behind the trade. It is essentially the Suns are receiving Nick Richards and 1 second-round pick. They're giving up Josh Okogie and 3 second-round picks. So there's it's a pick swap essentially in the second round. That second round, as reported by John Gambadoro first, was that the Suns are going to move Josh Okogie and 3 second-round picks to Charlotte. That second-round pick is for this year, 2025, and it is via Denver. So bringing back Suns Geek. There we go. It's always easier on the phone, isn't it?
Oh my God. What? That's the second time that has now happened. I am furious. I'm going to send StreamYard the biggest complaint letter, but I'm trying to get this live because this happened last time. So let me, just give me a second here. Let me see if we can get some. Okay. I'm backstage. If I can get out of this.
Boop,
yeah,
boop.
there we go.
There we go.
Okay. Are we good now? Are we safe?
We're good. You're
good. God.
Suns Geek and I talked before the show. I'm used to obviously hosting the Suns Jam Session podcast. This is his show. You're running this one, man. Take us away.
Guys, I am so sorry. I apologize to every single viewer on the Suns Jam Session and Suns Geek. I am so sorry. I was connected. I had my internet ready to go. I was all fired up. And then the internet cuts out for the second time in a row. That is ridiculous. I'm so sorry. Okay, what were we talking about? Nick Richards traded to the Phoenix Suns. Is this real life?
That's the rumor on the street.
Yeah. And again, as I heard you, because I actually had connection there for a minute, I did hear you say that John Gambadoro was one of the first people who was on top of this, just like he is with almost everything Suns related. He is connected. He has been covering Valley sports for so long. He knows what's going on. So big shout out to John Gambadoro, who was one of the first people that reported this. And I just feel bad for you, John. I was like, don't worry, John, I'm gonna host, I'm gonna take ship and everything. And then all of a sudden you have to host the first couple of minutes. I'm so sorry.
Thankfully, man. I'm well equipped to host. I typically host on a nightly basis.
Well, let's start off with, I guess, the report here that's coming from Shams, because there are some other moving parts and pieces with this. I don't know if you went over it or not. And again, if for some reason my internet cuts out again, I'll just do it live from the phone the whole time. But yeah, so let me just pull this up real quick. I thought I had it. I'm like scrolling down right here. Here we go. Here's the report. So yeah, we are getting in this trade, obviously, Nick Richards. And I keep lagging, man. I might have to just do this from the phone, dude. This is so bad. Am I still lagging?
A little bit, yeah. Audio's fine, but video, yeah, you're definitely
so
says Jay, says in the chat, Geek looks like he's on dial-up.
Pretty much, man. I miss the good old internet connection that I once had. This is, oh my God, this is infuriating.
Ever since you moved back to Phoenix, man, the internet connection just hasn't been the same.
Well, as long as the audio is working, that's all that matters. Hope I can still share my screen and all that too. So yeah, let's just go ahead and pull this up right here. Sean Sharania is reporting, and I can zoom in a little bit because that just, let me lower our little group chat right there. So let's zoom in here. This is going to be the best live show ever. This is what you guys get on Suns Geek and Suns Jam. You get live,
this is what you get when the Suns jump a trade on you. And, we are champions. We adjust, right? Like in my office, I actually have a poster up there that says champions adjust, right? And that's what we're doing right now. We're being champions, and we're trying to make this, we're excited. And I was saying, every time a big trade happens, it's you and me, Geek. Like, when Bradley Beal came to Phoenix, I think you might have been on the Kevin Durant show when we did that one. When we got Eric Gordon, whenever these big transactions happen, you and I hit each other up and we're like, hey, let's get on a live stream. And whatever happens, man. That's what happens. We're reactionary, but we're champions and we're adjusting. Hopefully like the Suns are by making this deal.
So are you serious right now? What is going on? Okay, let's finally dive into this. The Charlotte Hornets are trading in 1 second-round pick. That's sort of what I think gets lost in here, is that they are trading 1 second-round pick to us for Josh Okogie, who I have some thoughts on that in a minute. And
you're pinging again, man. You're pinging. Let's welcome Boyd from Australia, the Aussie Suns Fan Podcast. How we doing, brother? I can't hear you either. What the fuck is going on? Suns Geeks Internet.
How about now?
There you go, Boyd.
What's going on? This is the greatest live show ever.
This is the best thing since the KD podcast, the KD drop. Man,
I like what Justin says in the chat. He goes, that scene in Wayne's World where he orders at the drive-thru? Totally know what you're saying, man. Oh. All right. Well, I'm going to pull down what Geek's got going on there. Right.
What did I miss out on, John? What have you covered so far?
Not much. We've just been trying to get this internet connection to work over for Suns Geek. So far, we've talked about the fact that the Suns have traded Josh Okogie for Nick Richards. The Suns have sent 2 or 3 second-round picks to Charlotte. In return, they have received Nick Richards and a second-round pick, which is a 2025 second-round pick. So that's this upcoming draft, and it's via Denver. All right, so let's try to bring Suns Geek back in here. He's just frozen.
We just have to start wishing some really bad shit happens to the Denver folk, yeah?
Yeah, we do. But I think the key thing here is Saul's right. Too early for a pod. So the key here is that 2025 second round pick, that's a trade chip. So essentially the Suns lost 2 first round picks in this, or second round picks.
That's what I was going to say.
We
technically just lost 2 picks.
Exactly.
People are going to see the 3 picks and they're going to freak out. It's like
So let me ask you both this question. If the Suns sent Josh Okogie to the Charlotte Hornets for Nick Richards, and they sent Josh and 3 picks and just got Nick Richards back, how would you feel about this deal? So that's a thumbs up for our listeners from both. Thumbs
Oh,
up
yeah.
from both. So now, tell me why.
Boyd, you want to start? Because I'm scared of my internet.
Yeah, man. Yeah, I'll start. Nick Richards is first things first. He's that athletic guy. He's a ball of energy. He's going to be in the starting lineup. There's Shams is saying that he's going to be competing for a spot, but he's jumping straight in there in front of Plumlee, I reckon, no doubt about it. But he's a ball of energy. He's athletic. He's going to be able to do something with our KD and Booker and Beal, do stuff that Nurkic and Plumlee can't
Mason
do.
Plum.
Osso's a bit too raw to do something like. We're going to be flying above that rim. There's levels to this. And Nick Richards has never played on a team like the Phoenix Suns, albeit we haven't played out our ceiling, but he's been on a shitty fucking Charlotte Hornets squad, right? So I think the game just might slow down for Nick Richards a little bit.
Justin from the Fanning the Flames podcast, aka So Says Jay, is here. Justin, what's up, man? You here to rescue this show because my internet just sucks, man.
So, well, I'm working, so I just want to duck in to say like three things. One, this is awesome. Two, Void and I are awesome for basically calling this last night. And three, you guys are doing a fantastic job. That's it.
Thanks, man.
I'm out.
Love you,
Appreciate it.
Justin.
Go check out the new Fanning the Flames podcast episode, because not only did they finally do a podcast episode, but they did it on camera. So everybody check out Fanning the Flames. I retweeted it. John, you quote tweeted it. Everybody go check that out right now. Are we good for me to host right now? Like, is my internet actually going to cooperate now?
Your internet's kind of owning this,
God,
man. So now you can ask me questions. This is fucking great.
Jeez,
this is what Boyd feels like every time he's on the Aussie Suns Fan Podcast. He just gets to answer questions.
For real, man. Yeah, John,
John,
you just relax, man. You just relax and hang out for a minute. So I feel like we've sort of covered a small part of this in the few minutes that we've had here all together, where we could actually talk about internet connection. So we get Nick Richards. We get a second-round pick. Now, that one is in this year's draft, right? The 2025 draft, which that's cool because this is a loaded draft class, I believe. But we did have to sacrifice 2 second-round picks. Even though it says 3, we pretty much only sacrificed 2 second-round picks. But the biggest thing, we have so much to talk about here, is we have a quality starting center. Now, yes, he's still young. He's 27 years old. He comes from a really bad Charlotte Hornets team, but I believe he's averaging like a double-double and all of that. He's athletic. He's young. He can rim run. He's going to catch a lot of lobs. That's going to be a lot of fun. But does this solve all of the Suns' problems? I was going to talk about this regardless whether we made this trade today, because, John, I was telling you backstage, I had a list of things that I wanted to go over and talk about. And I don't mean to sound like a negative Nelly, Suns fans. You guys know me. I keep it positive. I keep it real. This isn't going to solve all of our problems, Suns fans. Nick Richards is not going to save us. Am I excited to see what he can do? Yes. Is he going to be productive and grab some damn rebounds? Which, by the way, that's a topic for later that I have to talk about. Yes, he's going to do that. But is he going to solve all of our problems? Absolutely. And that's not his fault. That is not his fault. So now that I gave you guys a breath, do you want to kind of roll off anything I said? Let's start with some positives. Forget negative Nelly Suns Geek for a minute. What are you most excited for that Nick Richards is going to bring? John, since you had to host, Boyd, I'm going to put you on the spot first again. What are you most excited that Nick Richards is going to bring?
Well, it's what we've been talking about. Well, it's the obvious things. He's a great shot blocker. I think, John, you shared a graphic recently that he's in the 96th percentile. Is that right, or around about? He's a great shot blocker. But it's the energy. It's the energy. It's the athleticism. It's what he can do in tandem with our other key pieces, and it's exactly what Nurkic couldn't do. But look, he's a starting center too. He has been a brilliant starter when Mark Williams has been out for the Charlotte Hornets. His per 36 numbers are great. I think it's 15 points, 12 rebounds, something in that realm as a starter. We don't even need that 15 points from our center. Give me 10 and give me 15 rebounds per game. Let's trim off the edges. And let's just get Nick Richards. Let's see. Another thing you were talking about, Voider, is that we don't see the fire in Booker nowadays. You know, the fist pumping, the screaming, the hey. Let's get some of that from him. Let's have Osso coming in and maintaining that energy. Let's have Ryan Dunn always bringing that energy. We've got 3 of them now. So I think he's just what we need as a collective to bring, more of that enthusiasm out in the rest of the team. And it will be from highlight plays. That's what gets them going.
John, do you have anything you want to add to that? Like, what are you most excited for? What are you looking forward to in terms of adding Nick Richards to this team?
There's a lot of different answers to this question. So I guess I'll start with the word that we utilized a lot last year when we got Yusuf Nurkic on this team, and that was the word fit. Nick Richards is going to fit this team. You take a look at how they're built, the athleticism they possess, the shot making they possess, and unfortunately, Yusuf Nurkic, we thought was going to fit because in last year's system, when playmaking and positionless basketball were the buzzwords of the season, we needed a center who could play make and play above the break and pass. But this year, we haven't needed that from Nurkic. He's not playing above the break. We have him down in the post. We have him, and he's not making plays out of that position anymore. And we've seen, obviously, from an advanced metrics standpoint, his playmaking has regressed. His rebounding still elite. His field goal percentage is regressed. And so his fit with this team, with this Suns team, the 2024-25 team, is a lot different than it was last year. And he's had a hard time adjusting to that. Whereas Nick Richards, who has his deficiencies, let's not kid ourselves. This is a center who's being paid $5 million this year and $5 million next year. Some of that's for a reason. He has his issues. Defensively, he can get lost. But to Boyd's point, from a rim protection standpoint, from a rebounding standpoint, and from a rim running standpoint, athleticism, somebody if we had him last night, we win that game. Yep. Period. If he's in there playing the minutes that Mason Plumlee was playing, the Suns win that game because despite all of the challenges that they had last night, where they gave up 20 offensive rebounds, where they allowed 27 second chance points, they still only lost the game by 5 points. So you have somebody who has his archetype out there playing with, as Boyd mentioned, that energy, that fire, that tenacity that this team so desperately needs. And don't get me wrong, Nurkic plays with some of those same characteristics. He just can't execute because he lacks the skill set necessary to do so. Nick Richards is going to temper some of that. And again, we're going to see times that everything frustrates us about everything. And we're going to find things about Nick Richards that we simply cannot stand as time progresses. But the other side of this is and the other reason I'm a fan of Nick Richards coming here is now you're not duplicative at your center position. You don't have Yusuf Nurkic and Mason Plumlee, who are both slow of foot, log down, slow the game down centers. You have a different archetype in there, and it also makes Nurk a little bit more expendable. Now, obviously, that's a whole other conversation. What teams are out there? What teams are interested in acquiring Yusuf Nurkic? Can you make those deals happen?
We'll get to that eventually.
Mm-hmm. But that now makes it even more of a full court press for the Suns to try to get rid of this dude.
Yeah, I'm trying to stay positive and optimistic about this. I guess it's better than what we have right now because I was sort of a Mason Plumlee optimist coming into the season. And I had heard some complaints. I even had a couple people DM me saying, you guys are going to like Mason at the start, but you're going to hate him later in the season. I was like, oh, no, he'll be fine. He's an experienced center. Remember when we were like last live, John? I was like, oh, Mason Plumlee should be starting over Oso Ighodaro because he has the experience. Don't listen to what I say. I don't know what I'm talking about. Oso Ighodaro should have been the one who's starting because when he's out there, he's actually productive and has energy and can actually play a little bit of defense too. His defense is growing right in front of our eyes. So I agree with both of you guys. He's going to bring energy, rebounding. He's going to bring a lot of shot blocking. I think that's sort of the one thing that I'm personally overlooking here. 1.2 blocks per game, I believe. He's on a really team-friendly deal, and I just want to make sure I'm getting this right too. It's a $5 million deal for this year, and
Five next year.
Yeah, 5 next year, and he's a unrestricted free agent in 2026-27. He'll be
so
29.
You took the Josh Okogie money, which was $16 million over 2 years, and you brought it down to $10 million over 2 years. And so at the same time, by doing this, the Suns save Matt Ishbia $20 million on their historic tax bill. Not something Ishbia necessarily cares about, but it is of note to drop that much money due to the second apron tax and all of the accelerators that happen when you go over the luxury tax. Saving what looks like on paper $6 million actually saves you $20 million.
And I know this is a totally random stat. I just randomly pulled up Twitter. Sam Cooper from the Timeline podcast said, last season, Nick Richards had more dunks, 120, than Nurkic and Plumlee combined, 100, in 1,000 fewer minutes. So for all of you fans who want your center to actually dunk the damn ball, Nick Richards is going to do that. And that's another thing that we were talking about with energy. That's going to get the crowd hyped during home games too.
Well, and also we're second to last in the league in dunks. Yeah. So they're clearly addressing a need. We can't rebound. We can't dunk. Let's get a guy who can rebound and dunk.
Yep. Boyd.
Hey, guys, here's a bit of fun. Over or under 1.5, right? When the first alley-oop for Nick Richards' dunk comes about, is it under or over? 1.5. What you got?
I'm going to go over, but that's just because, he's still getting into the offense. It's like his first game and all that. But if I'm going to put it under 10. Does that make sense? Like 10 plays or whatever? Might take
first play.
That'd be nuts if that happened.
I'm under.
That'd be nuts.
Guys, this is really the shot in the ass that we needed, as a fan base. Something to distract us from all the crap that we're seeing out there. But I'm really excited to see Nick Richards has always played for Charlotte, right? Am I correct in saying that?
4 years in the league, only 27 years old.
And what a shit show. What do you guys think will help being in this particular lineup at the Phoenix Suns? What do you think we might see that we haven't seen before from Nick Richards? What do you think might open up?
That's a great question. I'm going to take this one first, John. The fact that he's actually playing for, I don't want to put us in contenders because we're not that good anymore, but he's playing for a team that could make the playoffs. You know what I mean? He might have a rejuvenation. Maybe we'll unlock something in him. Plus, you got to remember, new coaches, new coaching staff, new philosophy, playbook. It might take a while. Like, I could see Nick Richards kind of getting off to a slow start, but like putting up the numbers, but getting off to a slow start with our team. Maybe it'll unlock him, man. Maybe he will be one of our starting centers for the foreseeable future alongside Oso Ighodaro that we desperately need, man. And I just love how you worded it, Boyd. This is the shot in the ass that this Suns team needed. Because, John, you know this, Boyd, you know this. It has been such a disappointing letdown season for 2 years in a row now. If Nick Richards can come in here, grab some damn rebounds, dunk the damn ball, play with energy, maybe that will ignite, what we need in the Suns fan base and the Suns themselves. I'm just so excited, man. Hopefully he's just unlocked coming to Phoenix, man. John, what do you think?
I think that you got to look at the system he was playing in. And Charlotte, although a reserve, but Charlotte is a very 3-ball heavy team.
Yep.
So spacing has never been an issue. It's not like he's going to come to Phoenix and because the Suns have Mike Budenholzer's system in place that he's going to all of a sudden be unlocked because space exists. Right. He's operated in an area of space. I think what gets unlocked for him is more of what he's done as a starter throughout his career. As a starter throughout his career, 10 points, almost 9 rebounds, 10 and 9.
Pretty much a double-double.
Yeah, pretty close to a double-double, very Nurkic-esque, if you will. But I think what's going to really open up for him is the talent level around him is going to raise him to a different level. Before, when he'd walk out onto the court, he'd look over and there's LaMelo Ball, doing his funny dances and
Brandon Miller.
Yeah, exactly. Brandon Miller, a rookie, is around him. Not a lot of veterans around him in Charlotte throughout his career. And now you got Kevin Durant and you got Bradley Beal and you got Devin Booker around him. And it's like I don't know if you guys golf, but if you've ever gone golfing with somebody who golfs very well, you golf a little bit better that day because you're around somebody who's just in tune with the game. And I'm a shitty golfer, but when I golf with friends who are good, I golf a little less shitty. And so I think that he's going to elevate his game because of the guys around him, combined with the fact that they're going to, because of their shot-making ability, have such a great gravity that he's the one who's going to benefit. How many times have we seen Jusuf Nurkic get a pass due to the gravity that's occurred from the big three, and he fumbles through it, or he throws up some random shot because he's trying to get fouled, or he thinks he's fouled and he's bitching to the ref. Whereas, again, Richards is going to fumble too. He's not the best center. But when he does get the ball, he knows what the fuck to do with it, and he can slam that shit home. And that's what Nurkic has zero athleticism, dude. I'm more athletic than Jusuf Nurkic, and that's saying something.
He's a lot more decisive when he gets the ball. He's a quicker decision maker than what we've seen from Nurkic, even Plumlee. But so, is he a taller? One thing that I've really appreciated with Osso's game is that he's very quick. He's in that 0.5 system, right? That we're used to. But he's very quick to either make a pass or go up for a shitty looking bloody shot put, or dunk. And that's what we'll see from Richards as well, I think. But he's just a 7-foot version. There's going to be different levels that the guys can see him and get him the pill. It's going to be good, man. It's really good.
Excited.
Yeah, I didn't mean to start off the show like super negative. It's
You
just
get it. You're good.
It's just because of the season we've had. You know,
We're the Suns.
if we were like the 4th seed right now, we were winning more games and the vibes were good, I'd be like, holy crap, Nick Richards is here. Let's go, y'all. But like, it's not like that. Like we won 4 out of 5, and then we had a really disappointing loss last night or the other night. You know what I mean? It's like it's a roller.
But the bright side is we're only 2.5 games out of the 6th seed and the 5th seed.
Yep.
You know, we're 14 games back. The Clippers and the Mavericks are both 11.5 games back. So moves on the fringes. And that's, that kind of brings me back to the first question that you asked, Suns Geek, is, you stated it's like, I don't know how much this helps the team. We need to get better on the fringes.
Yeah.
You look at Dallas last year. Dallas was a team that was struggling. They were sputtering throughout the season. They made those moves, all coincidentally with Charlotte as well, to get like the PJ Washingtons of the world. And all of a sudden, getting better on the fringes allowed their team to align. It allowed Kyrie and Luka Doncic to play more within their role and not have to be relied on so much defensively because they had a PJ Washington behind them. The same thing is going to go defensively for the Suns now. You have Nick Richards back there to potentially shot block. You have Nick Richards back there to potentially grab some much, much needed rebounds. And that's something that could help on the fringes. Because again, we have Nick Richards yesterday. We're feeling better as a fan base because we've won 4 in a row. We're feeling better as a fan base because we're over 500. So it's all perspective, and you're 100% correct. And it's okay to be apprehensive about the Suns right now because they've forced us to be apprehensive by the way that they've played throughout the entire season. Every time you start to get just a little glimmer of hope, they body slam you, they rock bottom you right back down to the mat.
Real quick, and I'm not sure if you talked about it earlier when my internet was lagging out and all that, but there's a comment in there saying, who do you think, has to be first reserve player? Is it Richards, Nurk or Plumlee? Because, Nurkic is on the bench regardless. And I think even with this trade, he might still stay there. I am really curious if they're like, hey, Nick Richards, you're here. You want to start? I don't know, because clearly the Mason, I keep calling him Miles Plumlee. Clearly the Mason Plumlee minutes have been bad, for the most part. Maybe a nice play here and there, but he's been bad. It's like, and that's why that's one of my biggest L's that I'll ever take is thinking that Mason Plumlee.
He's fine. He's
but him starting over
center.
But
Oso has no size.
Yeah.
So that's the issue. Oso's a great change of pace guy to come in because he has great skills. As you mentioned, the 0.5, he's a good decision maker.
Yep.
He has some defensive capabilities, but he's limited by his physical attributes, just like Mason Plumlee is in a different way. So when you want to throw some size in there, you have right now because Jusuf Nurkic is quote unquote ill, you have to throw Mason out there. Mason Plumlee is a fine backup. He's a fine backup to the backup.
Yep. That's why I was excited when we got him.
Yeah.
Because he's a nice backup.
But if you're relying on Mason Plumlee, you deserve to lose.
And you know what? I don't mean to continue with the negativity, and I don't want that to be my new image here, but here's the problem. And I don't think we're going to be able to address this until I don't think we're going to be able to address this until the off season. Look, Nick Richards is great. Let's say he has like a breakout year now with us. Let's just pretend. Let's use our imaginations. You know, and I know you can't stop these guys regardless of who you have on your team, but like Nick Richards isn't going to stop the Okogies or the Anthony Davises. You know what I mean? He's not going to do that. That's a problem we're going to have to address in the offseason, because I'm really excited for Nick Richards. I could be eating my words here, but like, is he really going to stop?
But in the same thought process, other teams look at Phoenix and they're like, well, okay, in that specific matchup, we're not stopping Kevin Durant.
True.
We're not stopping Bradley Beal coming off the bench, right? So every team has its deficiencies. The nice thing about like the Jokic situation is if you do keep Nurkic, you have him come off the bench or he starts that game against. Now you have, again, different ways to beat teams. That's what's important. That's why like Tyus Jones, despite him struggling this year, is still good to have on your roster, because there's certain matchups where he's going to thrive and from a playmaking standpoint and make you a better as a team. You have to beat teams in multiple ways, in my humble opinion.
So John and Boyd, just real quick, because I was telling John this backstage, I do have some other stuff that I want to talk about, and I don't know how much time you guys have, but do you guys want to talk about what this is going to mean potentially for Jusuf Nurkic? Because clearly he's been in trade rumors. It's at one point I felt like, the Suns are shopping Jusuf Nurkic, and then one day, they are not shopping Jusuf Nurkic. So who knows what's real at this point? So I guess we'll let Boyd start with this one. Boyd, do you think this means that the door is now open for Jusuf Nurkic to be traded? Do you want Jusuf Nurkic to be traded? What do you think, man?
1 second.
No one, I suppose no one really knows.
Delicious definition, make them boys go crazy.
What's going on?
I mean, I got to play the drops for the players still.
Okay? Oh, yeah, my bad. Sorry.
I was wondering what
this is the best live show ever.
Hey, look, I think no one really knows what's happening with Nurk, actually how touchy that situation is. And at the end of the day, we're sitting on 14 roster spots right now. We weren't using a whole lot of them, even to start with. We're operating so far over the cap and into the second apron. Does it really matter? So long as we're getting production and we're getting what we want from that 5 position, does it really matter if we make a move with Nurk before this trade deadline? Now, if that's going to mean that we have to attach one of our last couple of assets, don't want to do it. I don't want a piece of it. Do it in the off season when there's a lot more room to play. But look, I just don't think it really matters too much. Like, we've got a fix for now. We've still got a roster spot to move on the fringes. I think it's all about baby steps right now. It's all about if we and as John was saying, if we had Nick Richards in the last game, we're looking at a 4-game win streak. And we're looking at, we're looking at potentially a 10-game win streak coming into this, the run that we have coming up. So, yeah, look, I don't think we have to do anything with Nurk. If someone wants him, fine. But at this point, I just think that we just sort of play our game.
He's still under contract too. I think that's the one thing that Suns fans forget. I think we still have him for like 2 more years after this. I could be wrong on that.
He's also
Nurkic, 1 more year.
1 more year.
He's
so
expiring. He's an expiring. Yep. So he's more valuable as an expiring contract in the offseason.
Exactly.
So there's that to think about as well.
John, do you want to play the drop? I'm so sorry for my hosting. Play the drop.
Let's do it one more time.
Nurk. Delicious definition, make them boys go crazy.
Oh. Yeah, when it comes to Nurk, and I see some of the comments, and it's not wrong. Like Chris Stew in the comment, and thank you to everyone who's watching live, whether you're on Suns Geeks channel, you're on the Suns Jam Session channel. Truly appreciate you hanging out with us, talking about this. But Chris Stew says Nurk unfollowed teammates, so it's inevitable.
Yeah, I saw that.
The way I look at Nurkic is there's a couple of different ways here. One, it comes down to him as a human and as a player. If he's okay with being benched, like Bradley Beal has seemed to embrace, he's just being the consummate professional. And we know Nurkic typically isn't the consummate professional. He's kind of catty, right? Like he gets on social media and blocks managing editors of Brightside and whatnot. He just has this thing about him. But if he's okay with being benched or Coach Budenholzer going, you know what, we're going to utilize you as a starter against Jokic. But tonight the Suns are playing the Washington Wizards, and it's a better matchup for Nick Richards, and we're going to go with him. If he buys into the team concept, then why not hold on to him as much as you can? The other challenge working against us, as we've noted, is nobody wants Yusuf Nurkic. To Boyd's point, this offseason, somebody might, because he isn't expiring next year. But right now, if you're to trade for him, his value isn't at an all-time high. It might be an all-time low. His contract's a little inflated, and you get a year and a half of Nurkic. So it's hard to trade that deal. So the hope that Suns fans should have isn't necessarily trading Nurkic. I think having Nurkic and having Nick Richards, if you tell me that that's your center rotation with Oso Ighodaro, a skilled big man behind them, I think that's a great – we just went from having a really shitty center rotation to a good one. Because if you trade Nurkic and then you're right back in the same issue you had before where you don't have a great stable of centers, you have a serviceable one. So, and of course, it always depends on what are you going to get back for Yusuf Nurkic, which again, with his value being low, probably isn't much. I think the Suns should and they will explore more of what can they get for Grayson Allen, because Grayson Allen has a skill set that's applicable to the entire league. His value's higher and you can get more back. And we have an extra roster spot. So we can send him out and potentially get two players who meet needs of the team and its quality meets, whether it's assets as well, because of what his value is. Whereas Nurkic, his value is at an all-time low. His mentality might be at an all-time low, but if he can buy into the team aspect, maybe go follow his buddies on social media again, maybe some good things will happen. So we'll see as Suns Geek has departed. And for those of you who are watching, you can see that Boyd is getting banged from behind by Kevin Durant with that picture. Whenever I watch your podcast, I see that picture, man. It just drives me cutting. It's so fucking funny. So what do you think about everything I said as it pertains to NerkDaddy.com?
Yeah, look, it's we're not, as long as we don't move him and have to give up more of our war chest of assets. And that's, I don't think he's that guy who's going to be a cancer within the locker room at all. I don't think he's that guy. He's not he's not a John Collins or whatever, but I just think, yeah, we just wait and see what happens in the off season. And if we need him, break glass in case of emergency, let's just get him in.
So from what I did hear, Nurk's future is up in the air. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, it is. It's dependent upon him. I feel like it's dependent on two things. It's dependent on the market, which says he sucks. So he might as well just embrace the fact that he's here and that the Suns are fortifying depth potentially behind him or depth potentially in front of him. But if he's going to buy into the team aspect, that's what we got to do.
I really wonder if, and I know I sound like I'm pointing out the obvious here, but I wonder if the play of our center position, maybe outside of Oso Ighodaro, who I think's been solid lately, if that really woke up James Jones and company and said, this is not working, we need help immediately. You know what I mean? Like, I wonder if they were like, we sort of were hitting the panic button a little bit. Like, we need to do something. And then Nick Richards is what they got. I wonder if these talks have been going on for a while.
We know that they've been going on, especially as it pertains to Nick Richards, but I wrote an article for Brightside that published this morning. After every game, I do a story called Brightside Baller, where I allow the Brightside community to vote on who they kind of feel is the player of the game, right? And I do a quick summation of the game. And in my article, I literally wrote that. I'm like, you know what? I'm glad the Suns lost this one. I'm glad they got owned on the glass in this one, because maybe this will be the catalyst to force a trade. That combined with the fact that Josh Okogie comes on the market tomorrow. And here we are the next day. It's happened. Josh Okogie became available on January 15th. We traded him on January 15th. And it's funny, I got one of my buddies who actually writes for the Arizona Republic. We text back and forth. He's sharing a text message that we had before New Year's, about Me saying, oh, Charlotte, you're our only hope, and we're discussing Nick Richards trades back then. So, I mean, it's something that's definitely been talked about and how we've all kind of wanted this and needed this to happen. And here we are on the other side of it. Here, let's go.
Speaking of that, John, because this is one topic I wanted to talk about before my internet started crapping out on me. And you did reference this earlier in the pod, but we lost the rebounding battle last night, I believe 54-37. And yes,
Yeah.
I'm looking at some notes here. And then I read one thing that said Atlanta turned 17 offensive rebounds into 27 second chance points. Let me repeat that. 17 offensive rebounds into 27 second chance points. The Suns managed 9. That is unacceptable. Unacceptable. And then you hear, like, I think it might have been Kevin Durant or somebody or Mike Budenholzer. They're like, we need a team rebound, and it's something that we all need to work on. We're just ball watching. That's so alarming. They're ball watching? Like, what? I even had a tweet last night, and I believe this was in the final 2 minutes. It was like, the Hawks took a 3, they missed. Devin Booker couldn't grab the ball. The ball scrambled. Mason Plumlee couldn't grab it. Next possession down, it leads to a Hawks 3. That was pretty much the ball game right there. I'm like, the rebounding needs to be addressed. I don't have the full rebounding numbers in front of me.
I memorized them. 20 offensive rebounds we permitted, 27 second chance points. That's all you need to know. That's the story.
And then real quick, if I could just read one tweet. I wish I could show you guys this tweet, but my internet doesn't want to work. This is from Kellen Olson, and I really hope that my internet works right now. Yeah, so this is from Kellen Olson from the Arizona Sports. He says the Suns are the only team in the NBA this season that has allowed an opponent to grab 20 or more offensive rebounds in at least 3 games per stat head. They all happened in the last 8 days. Unacceptable.
That's the why. You pull Nurkic out of the lineup, that's what happens.
Unacceptable. I got to read that again. 20 or more offensive rebounds in 3 games, and that happened all in the last 8 days. Boyd, how are we going to save our rebounding, man? Is Nick Richards going to save our rebounding problem? Is he going to ignite the fuse?
Completely. Not completely. He's not going to completely. There's still that ball watching problem. There's still people not boxing out. Now, Nick Richards can't do the entire thing. Nurkic couldn't do the entire thing. What Nurkic did basically was just sort of put a Band-Aid on that issue. That's a collective team thing that I think needs to be addressed. They all need to make a conscious decision. But they need also, again, we loop back to that accountability thing. There also needs to be someone out there sort of leading that charge. Is it going to be Nick Richards? I don't know. I haven't heard much about Nick Richards as far as a vocal leader on the court, defense-wise. I'm not sure, and that all remains to be seen. But I think he's not the complete answer, but he's a baby steps. He's a good little step in the right direction, 100%.
Preach. I do have some other things I want to talk about if you guys have some time. I mean, do we kind of want to put a bow on the whole Nick Richards stuff? Do you guys
I think
have
the
any
Nick Richards
thoughts?
side.
Let's trade some more people. Let's trade some more players.
Well,
Trade everybody.
I do think we need to give respect to this guy on the way out the door.
Hey, Joe. Where you going with that gun of yours?
Josh Okogie's part of this deal too, and he's been with this team 2.5 seasons now. What are your guys' thoughts on J.O. as he heads over to Charlotte? Poor guy.
John, that's why you're a better host than me, man. You are such a better host, and I was supposed to do the hosting duties. But I do want to – I was texting a friend before I went – I said I kind of feel bad for Josh Okogie, but I think Charlotte fans are going to love him, man. Like you mentioned, he's been with us for, 2-3 seasons now? Feels that way anyways. And fans loved him, man. I mean, didn't he win, the Dan Marley Hustle Award? This guy just hustles, man. They call him Nonstop Nonstop, whatever it is his nickname is.
Call me Nonstop.
The dude is a lockdown defender. Yeah, call me Nonstop. He's a lockdown defender. He has heart. He's a good teammate. I really genuinely think everybody loved playing with him here in Phoenix. The coaches love him. That's why he was one of the few players to come back besides Kevin Durant and Devin Booker and all of them. So definitely going to miss Josh Okogie, man. I hope Hornets fans treat him well. And unfortunately, you got to make sacrifices. Maybe because Ryan Dunn has sort of emerged as a really good defender and a starter and a guy that is growing in front of our eyes. Maybe that's why the front office decided to make that deal. But maybe on the Hornets end, maybe they said, we're not trading Nick Richards if we don't get Josh Okogie. I don't know. I don't have any sources on that. But, yeah, definitely going to miss Josh Okogie. Boyd, what do you think, man?
He wasn't playing. Nice guy. Great. A great person a great player to have to throw out in certain situations, but he wasn't respected from the 3-point line, and that's important for our wings right now when it comes to gravity. So, yeah, look, sad to see him go, but he's going to get. I think he'll get a lot more opportunities in Charlotte. I think he'll be able to provide something that they lack defensively. So. Yeah, no, I think it's all the best for him. It's sad to see him go, though. Definitely.
Yeah, nice guy, right? Josh Okogie is the Hamo of the Phoenix Suns. He's a nice guy.
Nice guy, though.
Doesn't get a lot of playing time. Yeah. Nice guy. Chiba Hut. You guys ever been to Chiba Hut? I don't know if they have that down in Australia. But Chiba Hut, something local here in Arizona. It's one of those sub shops you go into and everything's weed-based. It's like, can I get a White Widow blunt? And blunt is like the size of the sub. You can get a pinner. But anyways, I was at Chiba Hut this past summer when we signed him to his extension. And not his extension, we re-signed him because you got to remember, he was a free agent. And the Suns, because they had his bird rights, signed him to that 2-year, $16 million a year or $16 million contract. There's 8.3 this year, it was 7.3 next year. The thing is, when we re-signed him, we knew that this day was coming, that January 15th was coming, because you didn't bring Josh Okogie back under that contract because of his talent and his skills. Amazing guy to have on the team. We, as fans, appreciate the hustle because he was around so many that didn't.
Preach.
Right? Last night, I felt like he could have helped because he would go out there and hustle and try to get an offensive rebound. That's a skill he was good at. But ultimately, we knew that he was going to be a trade chip, a trade piece, somebody that's going to facilitate an opportunity for the Suns to make their roster better. And that's ultimately what he did. I appreciate Josh Okogie for what he did as a member of the Phoenix Suns. I appreciate the effort he put in nightly, and I wish him well in Charlotte. But we knew this day was coming. Today's that day. Salute you.
Yep. Salute to Josh Okogie. Appreciate your service. I mean, he's in terms of defenders and just somebody that would give effort, the Dan Marley hustle, he's one of my favorite players in terms of those categories. I don't want to spend too much time on this because sort of like with the whole Nurkic stuff, I'm kind of just over it. The Jimmy Butler stuff. Do you guys want to tackle that just for like a few minutes? Because I have some thoughts, sort of.
I'm over Jimmy Butler.
That's kind of that's kind of what I was going to talk about. I am just over the Jimmy Butler trade stuff, and that's somebody that was making videos and live shows about it and following all of the updates and trolling on social media like Jimmy Butler's a Phoenix Sun. I think that bounced back in my face because I'm tired of it, man. It's like we all know Jimmy Butler wants to come to Phoenix. Phoenix wants Jimmy Butler, but nothing's being done. And again, and I've mentioned this in live shows, is he really going to save the Suns season 2? I'm like, it'd kind of be like a Kevin Durant 2.0 situation. Like, I mean, I'm not comparing Jimmy Butler to Kevin Durant, but contract wise, the age, etc. He could make a big impact, sure. But is it really going to save our season? He's under a huge contract. It's like we'd have to give up more assets, which we just lost a couple assets, by the way. I don't know. I'm over the Jimmy Butler stuff. If it happens, it happens. I don't know. But I will say this. Now that we got Nick Richards, that's less assets that we have for Jimmy Butler. I don't know. Boyd, are you over it? Do you care?
Not as I don't care as much. And I was actually someone once mentioned, I think it was the PHNX guys, but a lot of what we need to fix is internal. Now, whilst Jimmy Butler does a lot to demanding accountability, and if there is anyone in the league that can, have a crack at fixing that, the egotistical, the work ethic, the hustle, all that sort of stuff, it probably is Jimmy Butler. So if that's what's neat, but we don't know. We just don't know. And at the end of the day, Pat Riley is he's a tough man to deal with, no doubt. When it comes to front officers, he's a tough man to deal with. He's not going to have the wool.
Pat Riley.
He's not going to have the wool pulled over his eyes. It's going to be an absolute, I think, last resort if Jimmy Butler scares off everybody else and Pat Riley's just had enough of this prick and just wants him out. And we just happen to say, okay, all right, let's go. Right at the last minute. But I'm not holding hopes to that. Right now, I would have been more pissed if we had have held out hope and not made this fringe move. And I think there's going to be probably another one before the deadline. I would have been more annoyed if we had have put all of our eggs in that Jimmy basket and then got played for the full. The whole Blake Griffin using us as a tool type thing, he's using us as leverage somewhat as well. So, yeah, look, I'm neither here nor there. I'm not. All my hopes aren't riding on it. Go dye your hair again, Jimmy. Like, good on you. But right now, what we're doing is we're making moves to try and fix this internally.
Yep.
Which I think are really good.
I do want to kind of bounce off what you guys just said there. I don't really have too much to add to it, but I do want to bounce off it. Like, yes, in terms of a competitor, which this team desperately needs, in terms of toughness, locker room, a guy that's going to drive you nuts in practice and also hit big shots when they count. That's Jimmy Butler, a guy that's been to the finals, multiple playoff games. That's what I'm excited for if we do make the Jimmy Butler trade. But contract-wise, all this drama with Pat Riley, the whole CBA and salary cap, I'm just so over it. Like, just get it done with or don't get it done at all. I'm tired of following it. If it happens, it happens.
That's where I'm at. When I say I'm over Jimmy Butler, I'm tired of following it. I'm not tired of gaining the asset. So I'm going to ask you both a question, and I want you both to give me a one-word answer, okay? Whose contract would you rather have, Jimmy Butler or Bradley Beal? Butler or Beal? Boyd?
Butler.
Suns geek.
Beal. I know I'm crazy.
And see, that is crazy to me. So that's why I'm not over getting Jimmy Butler. I'm just tired of the drama. We're constantly tuned into what's going into Miami and who's Jimmy Butler saying what to face today. Like, until something happens, I'm tired of being strung along, essentially. But at the end of the day, I'm not even talking about the effect on the locker room, how I believe that he would fit nicely next to Tyus Jones, Devin Booker, Jimmy Butler, Kevin Durant, Nick Richards as your starting five. I like that starting five. But getting off of Beal's contract, to me, is the definition of success this season. This team, I love watching them sometimes. I'm a Suns fan all the time. And I have this challenge where I don't know if this is a championship level team. And if you want to maximize the window that is currently open for Kevin Durant and Devin Booker together, you have to remove the lock on that window. And that lock's name is Bradley Beal and his contract. It's a disgusting contract. He's got 2 more years on it? No trade clause, 50+ million. So if Jimmy comes here knowing that Phoenix is the only place that's going to pay him because Matt Ishbia is trying to turn this place into an old folks home, you're over 35, here's 50 million.
You have a huge contract.
If you come here and he opts into his player option next year and then signs an extension, then you have him under contract for 2 or 3 more years. But he's still a tradable asset at that point. The thing that's handicapping this team is the fact that Bradley Beal is an untradeable contract that you can't even discuss. You can't even sell a shit team like, hey, man, you guys aren't selling tickets. Hey, Charlotte, you want to sell some tickets? Here's Bradley Beal. Put him next to LaMelo Ball. See what happens. You can't even have that conversation because of Bradley Beal's contract. So the definition of success this season for the Phoenix Suns is always winning a championship, but the definition of attainable success is getting off that Beal contract, in my opinion. So I say you go and you get Butler if it means getting off of Bradley Beal.
Yeah, absolutely. Well done. Well said. I have nothing to add to that. I just had to play devil's advocate and say the Bradley Beal contract. Boyd, any final thoughts before we move on?
Can I just loop back to this is a little side bit on Nick Richards.
Go for it.
Are you guys ready for all the bandwagon fans from Charlotte?
Oh, dude.
Fans. No, but no, it's nice not to have to worry about that shit because I don't think that they're coming in fucking hordes.
Nick
So
Richards stands.
Nick Richards stands are about to show up, man. Get ready.
Fuck.
Fighting them off in the chat every night after on post-game podcast.
Hey, John, just curious, do you have the Tyus Jones drop available at all?
See, now you're playing into my wheelhouse.
Sha la 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 la. Mr. Jones and me.
It's like one of my favorite drops.
So hopefully my internet doesn't like cut out or lag, but I'm going to try to share my screen, which I used to be able to do back in the day, you know, but, and if not, I'll just read you guys the stats. So hopefully I don't lose connection here, but, and I know I'm totally box score reading, but Tyus Jones hasn't had a great January for the most part. You know, he was a plus, I believe he was like a +7 or whatever yesterday. I mean, 8 points, 6 assists, 60% shooting, not bad. But like, there's some games where I kind of forget he's on the court. I mean, like 18 minutes the other night against Charlotte, ironically, you know, because we just traded for Nick Richards, 3 points, 5 assists, 0 points, 6 assists. The shooting percentages aren't good. I mean, when he scores a lot of points, I feel like we're in ball games and we sometimes win those ball games. But I thought Tyus Jones was going to have a little bit of a bigger impact, and I'm not saying he hasn't. I mean, he's been that sort of floor general that we need. He's been a good veteran, even during the tough times. He's a very positive guy, but I just think he's kind of struggling this month. I don't really know where I'm going with all of this, but I had to talk about it, whether I was live with you guys or live solo. What's going on with Josh Okogie? Have you guys seen anything?
Tyus Jones, you mean?
Or Tyus Jones? Yeah, Josh Okogie. What am I talking about? But yeah, like what's going on with Tyus Jones, man? Like, is this just a weird funk that, you know, to start off the new year? Will he bounce back? Because I think Devin Booker is averaging more assists than him, if I remember correctly.
He is.
But that's nuts. I mean, it's cool that you have guys that can do that, but like, you know, I thought Tyus Jones would be leading the league in assists, man. It's not
I
it,
thought
man.
the same thing, Geek. I thought the same thing. Now,
we great minds think alike.
have we really given him the table setting keys, the playmaking duties? Have we really done it, or is the playmaking force within our big three just too powerful? The force is too powerful within it just gravitates back to them, and it becomes something that isn't in the design as advertised that we wanted out of Tyus Jones. I mean, at this point, I see him. He's not fully getting to you know, put his plays to work, because it's often ending up in an ISO. He's doing a bit of sharing with both Beal and Booker, of course, and Durant. So yeah, look, I'm in the camp of trading him.
I just wonder if, because we signed him and we promised him that starting deal. I'm not saying he's untradeable, but I just wonder if, because this is like a 1-year thing, if we will not trade him. Now I know the, you know, the expiring contract and he can go make more money elsewhere, but I don't know if that's going to happen. But at this point of the season, because of how bad things have gone for the most part, it wouldn't surprise me if we traded him, but I don't personally see it happening. John, do you have any thoughts on Tyus Jones' struggles?
Oh, absolutely.
You know,
I do. Do you guys read Bright Side of the Sun?
Oh, absolutely.
So I had a piece that talked all about this that came out yesterday, titled "Bradley Beal's bench role is in a demotion, but a revelation of Tyus Jones' impact." And that revelation is that Tyus Jones has been hurting the starting lineup when Beal and Booker are present.
I'm going to link it in the chat.
So one thing that, if you start to look at, so let's start off with the Suns last year, when you had Booker and Beal playing together. Now that team definitely had its challenges, but despite all those challenges, they were still plus 136 in the minutes that those two played together. Okay. But everybody said, and I believe that we are correct, that having a point guard was much needed. We needed a playmaker, because in the fourth quarters we had issues. We were very turnover heavy. But this year, with the addition of Tyus Jones, you've now shifted. Booker or Beal is always going to be playing out of position. Whereas before, they were out of position, but one was being they were still playing guard, right, on offense and defense. Now, one of them has to play small forward. So when you have Tyus Jones, Bradley Beal, and Devin Booker out there, one thing that you are is small. And you look at this past week, Tyus Jones cannot guard LaMelo Ball. LaMelo Ball is 6'7". Played him twice this week, right? A total of 3 points in those games. So you have, from a defensive standpoint, it hurts the team, and that's reflected in the numbers. This year, when they're all playing together, though, that three-man lineup of Booker, Beal, and Tyus Jones, they're a negative 77. So what has happened is Mike Budenholzer moved Bradley Beal to the bench and reset the rotation. So when Jones comes out, Beal comes in, and vice versa. And that's why at the end of games, Jones isn't playing because Beal and Booker are out there. And because they're productive and they're playing well together, and that's reflected by their numbers this year. You know, when they're playing together this year, at least through a couple games ago, they're plus 14 in their limited minutes together, right? 112 minutes over the past week, they're a plus 14. So it was a negative when they were out there because Jones was out there with them. So that's why. So the Tyus Jones, the interesting thing about Tyus Jones, because you mentioned trading him, we need a point guard. Not necessarily to facilitate, as Boyd was saying, he needs to play his role. You need a point guard for the same reason I was mentioning earlier, how you need to just have the ability to beat teams in different ways, right? You need to essentially, I guess the best way to look at it is the secret to success in this league isn't about hammering the same nail every night. It's about building a toolbox that can crack open any opponent. And having Tyus Jones in certain matchups is going to be beneficial. So trading Tyus Jones isn't something I'm opposed to because you also have Monte Morris. And if you can take Tyus Jones and send him to Atlanta, who's a team that is struggling right now with their backup point guard situation. Injuries, Trae Young has to play a ton of minutes. If you can send Tyus Jones to Atlanta and get a couple second-round picks out of the deal, right? You don't have a ton of leverage because he is a free agent at the end of the year. So maybe you send him there and you get 2 second-round picks, but you can use those in ammunition for another trade. I can see that happening. Or maybe Monte Morris, you do the same thing. Hey, Denver, boom. Hey, Atlanta, boom. Give us a second-round pick or 2, and then you've restocked your draft capital a little bit for somebody who, especially in Monte Morris's case, as much as I love seeing him play, isn't getting the playing time. Because and kudos to Mike Budenholzer for adjusting accordingly, for adapting to his team and realizing, hey, I'm too small when I've got Tyus, Beal, and Booker out on the court. I need a little bit of size. I need to adjust this. Beal, you go to the bench. We'll start with this. We'll rotate accordingly. But now, because of that, you don't have a need for an extra point guard, if you will. Now, I'm going to break glass in case of emergency guy. I'd rather have him than need him not have him. It looks like Boyd fell. You look like you fell down an elevator shaft. But that's where I stand on Tyus Jones.
Well done. Boyd, what do you think, man? Do you think Tyus is just having a rough month? Do you think he's going to get traded? What do you think, man?
Yeah, look, he's like what is he? He's like a Maserati in the garage that we can only take on the road doing 60. And we've got a nice Mercedes or a Beamer there that we can take on the freeway if we want. And that's Monte Morris. And look, Monte. He's we still don't really know what we have with him, and he's probably more realistically able to be re-signed. He's someone that we probably have a better shot at retaining. So there's the element of longevity that I like with Monte Morris, and he's Tyus light in the sense that he was the second best in the turnover to assist ratio, or the assist to turnover ratio. So yeah, let's have him. Let's have him there, and let's look at extending him. Not extending him, but re-signing him possibly, and given these other guys who are taking. They're taking, the keys a lot from Tyus. Let them cook. Let them cook. Let's have Monty in case of emergency and keep him on long term.
So says Jay. Says I was pacing around my office and heard a loud crash. Just want to make sure everyone's okay.
David Yolovich. I've heard of mic drops, never a Zoom drop.
Right, that's so good.
Suns fever, boy, went down.
My iPhone is leaning up against a big W box in my kitchen, my studio. Oh wow, what the fuck?
Oh, you're
that?
fancy, John. You got the whole.
It just pulls out and then you lean it on things, And check this out. It moves.
Ooh.
Jesus, what is this sorcery? This is
I don't know. It's $15 on Amazon is what it is.
We need that shit.
This live show is sponsored by Amazon. No, it's not. But seriously, Amazon sponsor us. Speaking of that, I wanted to thank everybody too for my terrible internet connection. Thank you guys for hanging in there with us. John, thank you for hosting so well as you always do. Where do we want to go from here? Do you guys have any other things that you want to talk about? Because honestly,
I'm in the office.
I was looking through my notes. I'm like, dude, I pretty much talked about everything I wanted to talk about. Like, we reacted to the trade. We said our farewell to Josh Okogie. We had internet connections. We had phone drops. We talked about Tyus Jones. We talked about the Jimmy Butler saga drama. So unless you talk about anything else, man, like, do we want to kind of give our final thoughts here? Do we want to talk about what's going on with the Aussie Suns Fans Podcast or any Suns Jam plans? Like, this is just free time at this point. Putting you guys on the spot.
I'd just like to say the Suns are stacked and the league is fucked. We are
Let's
coming
go.
with Nick Richards.
Our season turns around now. Nick Richards is going to solve all of our problems, and we're going to win every game from here on out. Right, Suns Twitter? I'm looking at you, Suns Twitter. John, do you want to tell the people where to find you? What's going on with the Suns Jam Session podcast, who, by the way, is live after every Suns game?
That's right. I just got to start by saying,
fuck.
Suns Jam Session. You can follow us at Suns Jam. We're live, as Suns Geek mentioned, after every single Phoenix Suns game, live on YouTube. We stream on Twitter. We stream from the Bright Side of the Sun Twitter account as well, because I'm the managing editor of Bright Side of the Sun, and that's where you can read all of my writing. I had a couple pieces dropped today, one talking about Devin Booker and the Houston Rockets being interested in him and how they can get fucked on that one. Obviously, our writing team does a good job of covering exciting news like this. So you can follow me. You can follow my podcasting partner, Matthew Lissy, at Matthew Lissy. And you can follow me at Darth Voida. And again, see me after every single game. If you want to come celebrate a victory or bitch and moan about a loss, the Suns Jam Session is a good therapy session to do so. I know Boyd comes in there all the time talking about all of his private parts and what he likes to do with them.
Boyd from the Aussie Suns Fans Podcast, where can they find you, man? What's going on with you?
Mate, well, yeah, we come I think it's over there. It's every Saturday. Is it Saturday night, John?
Saturday night. It's like right when you should be on a date with your wife. That's when the Aussie Suns Fan Podcast comes on. And then when you're on said date and she's like, "What do you keep looking at your phone?" I'm like, "I don't know what Boyd's gonna say next. I gotta tune in."
Hey, so yeah, come catch us. Come catch us we're giving you options on your Saturday night. At Aussie Suns Fans on the Twitter and also on the Instagrams. And I just want to say, guys, the Instagram that I'm running at the moment, we just broke 100 followers.
Let's go.
Come on now. It's all downhill from here, right? This is it.
Yeah.
We're at the top of the bloody iceberg. We're sliding. But we're on Instagram at Buds83 for my personal account on the Twitter. But yeah, come say hello.
And shout out to John Gambadoro, who just retweeted our live stream.
Let's go. Thank you, Gambo. We really appreciate that. And Gambo, like I said at the very start of the show, before the internet connection started happening, you've been covering Valley sports for decades. You are on top of things. You give us information that you don't have to tweet out. You could keep it to yourself, you know what I mean? But you are nice enough to respond to people, let the Suns fans know what's going on, especially on the radio. We really appreciate you, John Gambadoro from Arizona Sports. And thank you for the retweet. That means a lot. And seriously, to the audience, I know I've already thanked you guys like 3 times. My internet, I don't know what happened. The lagging, the crashing, all that stuff. You guys are real ones. Thank you guys for joining us. We covered some other Suns topics. We talked about it all. And this is what you get when you're on Suns Geek and sometimes on Suns Jam. Things go a little crazy, but we power through it. Champions adjust, right, John?
Goddamn right.
Yep.
Goddamn
So
right.
seriously, you guys, stay safe out there. Be kind to people. Be patient with people. Love people. And even though we only have a little bit of hope left, just keep that little bit of hope left for the Phoenix Suns, you guys. Hopefully, Nick Richards will turn things around. And John, with all that being said,
Go home and love your family.